Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. It is 8:33, July 21st, 2020. We'll now call to order the Transportation Policy Committee. Agenda item number 2, we have acknowledged a full quorum. Thank y'all for everybody for being here. Agenda item number 3 is our safety procedures. Anyone have any questions on safety procedures this morning? Hearing none, we'll go to agenda item number 4, which is the public comment period. Is there anyone in the audience this morning that would like to speak? Hearing none, we'll move to the acknowledgement of our guest. Welcome all of you this morning. Glad to have you. Agenda item number 5 is approval of the June 16, 2020 meeting minutes of the Transportation Policy Committee. Has everyone reviewed this?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Thank you for a second from Mr. McKay. All those in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Minutes are approved. Agenda item number 6 is to discuss and take appropriate action regarding the call for August quarterly TIP, STIP revisions. Good morning, Mr. Jones.
Good morning. Before we get into agenda item number 6, I'd like just a second to mention something about a cover this morning as we celebrate the 30th anniversary of Americans with Disabilities Act. If you'll notice through your information, TxDOT is hosting, sponsoring a number of webinars, and they go through the 29th. The one on the 29th is creating opportunities through accessible transportation. So it may have some interesting
He's on. You need to hit it.
anyway, just FYI.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
will you hit your power button there, mic button? You got it? Thank you, Mayor, for the IT help. Thank you.
Maybe I should moonlight. Maybe I should moonlight down there. What do you think?
All right, would you please start over? By the way, we have to take a minute to applaud you because your mask and your tie perfectly match, Mr. Jones. We would expect nothing less, right, panel? You definitely.
As long as he's not at the bar.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Mr. Chairman, did you say we're going to open the bars? Is that what you said? I'm sorry, I digress.
15 minutes. Please proceed.
Agenda item number 6, as we have been doing for some time now on a quarterly basis, I have asked our district director of planning and programming to report to us on the status of our TIP projects. You have a 10-year plan in your agenda backup. I think it's on page 14 that you can follow along with. It should serve as a sufficient listing of those projects. And at this time, I'll ask Kyle to come up.
Good morning.
Good morning. As he said, this is what I'm going to be reviewing, the 10-year plan. And so I'm going to start in the year 2021. And on the first one, you see it's the Woodrow Road schematic from Slide, Indiana, so the preliminary engineering. And I just want to report that that is at 60% schematic, so they're moving along on that one. Loop 88 383B, so Avenue U to Chicago, that is at 90% plans. And then US 87 and FM 41 interchange that we're planning on building a bridge there. and it is at 60% plans. And then you go to 2022, the Upland Avenue from 66 to 82nd, those plans are at 90%. So we're doing really well on that one. The Woodrow Road, again, this is for the construction side of things, and as I said, we were at 60% schematic. 114th, I had heard that you do have a consultant on board, the city does, and they've assumed started since they're on board. The Loop 88, so then go to 2023. Loop 88 3C, we were at 60% plans. And then the rest of Upland, so we did a whole corridor for that. So for 82nd to 98, the environmental is cleared and the schematics are completed. And then the next project in 2024, that is for the Loop 289 and US 84 MLK interchange. We're at 60% schematic on that one. And then, as I said, the Upland, the whole corridor is environmentally cleared and the schematics are complete. So that is our 4-year plan. Does anybody have any questions about any of these projects?
Question? No question.
Good.
I think we're moving along really well on all our projects, and we should be able to make all that. So I think we're doing good.
Good work. Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Warren.
Ms. Francis, I have one question. I notice on the Loop 88 3C, a big portion of that is showing up under DDA, which is what my understanding is Develop Authority. That is not real money.
Correct.
I just want to make clear to the group and our guests that that does not necessarily mean we have funding to build that particular project at this time. Which doesn't mean we're going to not stop working on it and keep moving forward, but did that come about as a result of some of these adjustments to the UTP, or?
Yes, so this last year, so in 2020, we had a lot more money. And whenever this 2021 UTP, they give us funding, and it lowered quite a bit. We lost money from one year to the next. And, that comes down to Prop 1, Prop 7, oil field, sales tax, that's where we're getting the money for these types of projects. And they forecasted too high one year, and so then they brought it back. And so we've lost money, and then the whole COVID situation is not going to help either with the sales tax. And so I can definitely foresee next year it going down even more. So I'm just thankful that we have enough money to let the first piece, but we may have to move these out in order to get our funding there.
Thank you. I just want to make sure everybody understood that.
Mr.
Thank you.
Chair,
Ms. Patterson Harris.
I have a question. Given that there's the change in funding, is it possible to maybe be able to shift some of those projects that the cost may be a little bit lower? So, and take those ahead of the projects that we won't have all the funding for? You said there's a reducing numbers. I hope I'm hearing you right. There's the potential of the reduction in the amount of funding received, which would not be could potentially not cover all of the projects that include Loop 88, 3C, et cetera. Is that what I heard?
Correct. So the money forecast, so they're forecasting 10 years of funding.
I
Right?
got you.
And they're forecasting.
I understand.
The money's not there yet, right? They're just-
Kind of like the weather around here.
Right.
I get you.
They're forecasting, so they can be wrong. Yes, and so as you get closer, once you get into the 4-year, that's more solid. Right? And so I understand what you're saying about, the deal is, the money that we're using for Loop 88 is certain categories, and really there's, when we let 3A and 3B, we will be spending our 10 years allotment in that one project. So essentially, we're just gonna have to wait year per year to build up enough money to actually be able to afford the next project.
Well, what I'm asking, and I get kind of odd sometimes, but I ask, so it can be on the record that I ask. If for some reason we do not still, even at that time, have enough funding to do those, is there any way to shift? Because I'm looking at the categories where it is, some of the ones that match some of the same categories. Is it possible to shift those and be able to do some of those projects that cost a little bit less, but the funding is still in the same category? I'm just asking.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Warren?
Councilwoman, I think that would be a decision to be made by this particular body right here. That, yes,
Okay.
this group does have the authority to make changes to some of these projects, and
Thank you, I appreciate that. I just wanted to put it out there, so once we get closer, and that's what's taking place, if I'm around, and we'll see, then that might be something that I say we look at. Thank you.
Very good point. And thank you for the clarification.
Mr. Chairman.
Mayor?
So, Mr. Warren, Ms. Francis, help me with this one. My recollection is that we committed a significant amount of our discretionary MPO dollars to get a match from the state, more than a match, it's 3-to-1 kind of deal, as I recall, which would fund Loop 88 from the Highway 87 interchange to Quincy. And we've said so publicly, and they committed those dollars. So what's changed? Because that, to me, I'm one of the guys that's talked about it. We've all talked about it, actually. So what's changed? And I mean, I didn't know sales tax funded TxDOT's. Our sales tax is good. We should get going. We're ahead of the game. We are. I know the state situation is different, but explain this to me, because this is the first I've heard of it.
Mr. Mayor, the leverage that you're talking about, it shows itself in year 2025 on
Right.
Project 3D.
Yes, sir.
That $33.5 million that the commission committed to this project is still there. You can see the 10 million of Cat 7 that this body put into that to entice the commission. So the sales tax comes into play through Prop 7. I was reading the comptroller's report from this week, and he did indicate that sales tax, at least for the year 2021, it looks like there will be the transfer of Prop 7 money from the sales tax still coming through. It's the Prop 1 that's dropping quite a bit.
Right.
And it's in the further out years that it looks like it's dropping a lot. It's going from the $1.7 billion range down to about the $600 million range. So the commitment made by the commission is still there. It's not in this first 4-year window, and it never was. It was always in the outer years.
Yeah, I agree to that. I guess my question is, how do they know, how do they know to already move $41 million in 23 under DDA? Or is that been there previously? I don't recall it having been there.
So in order to fund 3A and 3B, the estimates have been higher than anticipated. And so I had to shift money out of 3C to pay for 3A and 3B. So when I did that, and because of our Cat 2 allotments have gone down, we lost about 20 million, I believe, approximately, between 20 and 21 of my 10-year allotment, essentially. So I had to move money out of 3C, which then forced it into DDA, meaning it's not funded, not all funded. And so that's what it amounts to. It's not really the commission's money. Well, so the commission's money, it does affect them. They have a smaller pot to play with if we have less Prop 1, Prop 7. But I also, the other categories that I'm using to fund Loop 88, there's less money in those too. So it's affecting all categories. Really, the only one that I haven't seen an effect is Cat 7 because it's federally funded. And so far, this group, our Cat 7 money, it has not gone down. So that's a positive. But my other categories, it has, that the district uses to fund things. So.
And Prop 1, if I recall, is funded by severance taxes, right?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
So, okay.
And it's also tied to the Economic Stabilization Fund, the Rainy Day Fund, so brings a whole extra set of politics into the movement of money in and out of that.
However, it's split, we voted for a certain split, as I recall. One of the reasons there's an constitutional amendment is therefore it can't be messed with by the legislature. Isn't that correct? Isn't there a formula for the way that money goes?
There is a formula, and I believe it's the comptroller's office that makes the determination as to how much money can be transferred from that fund over to the state highway fund. And a lot of it just depends on the health status of the economic stabilization fund.
Which we still think, even in these uncertain times, which should be somewhere around $9 billion when the legislature starts and convenes in January, I believe.
And the numbers I was talking about earlier are projections
Sure.
from the comptroller
Yeah.
at this time.
Yeah.
No, don't know where the oil patch is going.
Right. None of
Seems
us-
to be recovering a little bit.
Yeah,
but we don't
I
know.
agree. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So, Colin, keeping the dollars here, it's your forecast. Is it sort of like a placeholder so that they're forecasted, not real money yet, but it draws the attention that, okay, no kidding, we've got to finish this project. And so moving it out would kind of just like wipe out all the work and money that's been spent. So it's kind of like, got to keep the money there to continue the belief that we're going to continue moving forward and it will get completed.
Correct, I mean, and I do think it will, it's just we may have to delay a year or two to, as because we had it set up every 2 years we would let a new ADA project. Well, that was always dependent on our forecast of funding, and so it's good to keep it there because if it's in the 4-year, we have a better chance of getting commission money to help fill a gap. And so moving it out doesn't always necessarily help us. Yes, if we don't have the money for the year that it's gonna let, yeah, we would have to eventually move it out. But to me, it's good to keep it in my 4-year because that shows the commission, hey, they have this gap, let's help them out. Let's fill this gap. They like to fill gaps. And so that's my thing. I'm not going to move them until I'm pretty much forced to because I just don't have the money for that year. And so I think we will end up, we'll have more funding and it's a year by year kind of thing. And until they give me new forecasts, I really just don't know what's going to happen next year. So.
Well, and I think it's because y'all have always done a great job of being ready, being in front of the project, that when out of nowhere, sometimes dollars have been available to complete projects much quicker than had been planned or anticipated.
Correct,
So,
like the Marshall Chart. So
Yes.
if we're using the same model. We'll have our plans ready. We'll be ready to go if there's ever, funding that becomes available. So.
yeah, great, good work.
When you mentioned earlier, Ms. Francis, the dollars that, approximately 20 million that you had to move, tell us exactly what that was used for.
So when I mentioned the 20 million, that meant, so my Cat 2 category that I'm using to fund, it went down $20 million between 20 and 21. So I had it programmed on 30C. Well, I had to remove it in order to be fiscally constrained for 21. And so that's the deal. Every year I have to be fiscally constrained. So they project this amount, so I fund fully. Well, then the next year, if they lower the amount, I have to get back within with fiscal constraints. And so that's every year I'll be making adjustments, hopefully up, not down. But every year I have to in every category because we have to be fiscally constrained. So that's what it is. It's just they projected too high for 20. And then they look back at 21, they're like, oh, we didn't get as much as we thought. So.
Thank you for the explanation. Any other discussion? Thank you, Ms. Francis. Agenda item number 7. Is to discuss and take appropriate action regarding the district's biannual traffic management system status report, March of 2020.
The only thing I want to say before we get into the report is just to reiterate the point that I made in your agenda backup, that this discussion on the idea of the traffic management systems will serve to satisfy a level of cooperation inherent in our 3C planning process and serve to satisfy the requisite coordination specified in the UTP between the MPO and the district regarding ITS and traffic operations. You have a copy of the district's annual report in your agenda backup, and I have invited Mr. Terry to give you an update on those operations, and I will turn it over to him now.
Good morning.
Good morning, how are you all?
Good.
So, this morning's discussion is on our ITS, or our Intelligent Transportation System. We do a biannual report, like David mentioned, to Traffic Safety Division in Austin, with TxDOT to give them an update on our system. So a quick rundown of what we have to date. We have 54 CCTV cameras, our closed caption TV cameras here in the district. That's not to say that what's in the city. Actually, there's 48 inside the city limits. Then we have some along I-27 going north up toward Plainview at strategic locations. We also have 31 DMS boards currently in the district, with 20 of those being inside the city limits or near the city. So those are, y'all all familiar with them. They're not as small as you think. They're actually 31.5 feet wide, a little over 8 feet tall. So they are major boards that weigh almost 2 tons apiece. So they are quite large. The main thing I'd like this committee to understand on our DMS boards is what we can and cannot do with them. As far as I can do 3 lines of text, each line can only do 18 characters. So I'm limited on how much message I can put on those boards. So doing stuff that's very long, very detailed isn't gonna work. If y'all recall seeing amber alerts, blue alerts, it's pretty generic, pretty really to the point. So we have to be very careful. We can only also do 2 phases, meaning there can be 2 different messages at one time. You'll have one phase, the board goes dark for a split second, then the next phase and the message goes up. We can only do 2 of those. And that's because we want these boards not to be a distraction to the drivers. We want them to enhance the driver and give them additional information. If they're spending too much time reading, South Loop 515, let's take that for instance, we all know what's going to happen if somebody's distracted at that time of day on the South Loop. All that traffic, somebody's going to run into somebody else, and then we've got a whole major shutdown. So we have to be real careful on what we do with those messages. Most of the time, those messages are coming from our Traffic Safety Division on what we should post. I would say most of the time that amber alerts don't count. Those actually come from a different part of the state. We're getting those really from DPS when they send the alert out, and we're working with them, getting the messages up. I can also do stuff for construction projects that are going on in the area, as well as incidents that happen. So TxDOT and the City of Lubbock actually have a great partnership. We have a standing TMC, Traffic Management Center. The City of Lubbock operates that through Woods Group with Shaman Owens and the City of Lubbock Traffic Engineering Department. They man that from 7 to 6, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. So we're covering both the AM peak and the PM peak. So there's people in the city, they're managing those boards, they're watching everything, making sure, a lot of times that's what they're looking for is when there's an accident, they can get messages posted. So they have full rights to our system. They can move the cameras, they can post messages, they can do what they need to. City of Lubbock, LPD dispatch also has access to the cameras where they can move those cameras around. They do not have access to man the boards. To post messages, we leave that up to the TNC to run that part. But LPD does have that access to move those cameras if they need to. The caveat with that being, they cannot be moving those cameras, say, into the backyard. If they need to move it onto a street, we're fine with that, zooming in and out. But putting it near somebody's backyard, this has happened, that's why I'm bringing this up. South Loop, all of a sudden, PD, actually I believe SWAT was involved. They had somebody in a house that was holding themselves hostage. All of a sudden, I look up and our camera is trained into the backyard. Well, the bad part is that that camera, we have a blackout feature where we can black that out. It doesn't go outside of the network. That's great when we all remember to use that. When you don't, that's when our media partners, that 4 major media stations here in town, also have access to view our live stream CCTV cameras. We don't want that stuff ending up on the 5 o'clock news when other people don't want it, like LPD. So we're very careful on what we do with that. Like I said, the 4 medias do have access to our live stream, and that is all we do, is live stream this information. We do not record it. I know whenever you get a new lawyer here in town, because they will inevitably give me a call wanting to see the video for a certain wreck that a client had, and I can really inform them that we don't have that information. So I know when the new lawyers come into town or somebody's passed the ball all of a sudden, because I get that request quite a bit. Always happens, it's just the name of the game. But here inside the city, now, Loop 289, we do have a CCTV camera pretty much at every mile, which just almost corresponds to every major overpass we have here in town. So that has been we have increased that. Just a couple of years ago, we were able to do the east and north loop. Finally had some reasons to actually do that part of town with marathons coming into play on the loop. When triathlon reorganize themselves and they come in on in and out of the east loop area. That really got pushed. Working, Mr. Mandrell and I worked quite a few EOCs together, and so seeing that need, and Jay's not here, right? Jay Parchman was a big advocate of getting the east and north loop done, and really helped me convince some people to get this done. So we've increased our system quite a bit the past few years, and always looking to do that even more. We also have cameras and boards outside the city of Lubbock. You notice going down US 84, if you're going toward I-20, we've got a board and camera. We've got a board at Slayton. We've also got one at Post. We've also got some up along the I-27 corridor near Hatchie and Plainview, and then we've got some out in our other areas, US 60 up in Palmer County, so up by Farwell and Breonna. Also got one out by Muleshoe on US 84, as well as Highway 82 going out toward Plains, and a couple down at Seminole. So we're getting some outer areas done just to get that increased awareness going. Especially New Mexico, that's when we kind of focus on the west side of the district. New Mexico, when we had Winter Storm Goliath, they had a habit of shutting down our roadways at the state line without really informing us. So all of a sudden, we're getting calls from SO offices along those counties going, why didn't y'all shut the road down? We did not. New Mexico did. With that being said, now we can put these message boards out in advance of these major towns, Seminole, Plains, Muleshoe, gives drivers a spot to park and get into a rest mode, be in a safe spot to do that rather than just out in the middle of a roadway out in the middle of nowhere. So we've kind of focused on the west side of the district. Now we're switching focus. We're looking at other areas that we need to put these up. I've got 2 message boards that are sitting at my office right now on the ground waiting for a contract that Ms. Francis gave me allocated some money to me for later this coming year. I'm getting those 2 message boards as well as 2 others that I'm going to purchase up and install. So we're going to have another 4 message boards, hopefully by this time next year, up and operational. And we're looking at locations to put those in.
Mr. Chairman. Judge?
Okay. You made the same presentation last week to many of the county judges in this area as well, through SPAG. And one of the things I think you mentioned, you were talking about these the TMS boards, that if anybody in one of the county judges saw a need for having one in their area, and I know that's kind of outside of our MPO area too, but for traffic coming into Lubbock, that's very vital. I mean, I think we've got good coverage in the city. I think we're doing pretty good. But for people who are traveling into Lubbock, having those messages, avoid South Loop and Slide Road, you know, those kind of things, as they're traveling into Lubbock. Did you get a good response from those judges?
I haven't gotten a response yet,
Okay.
to my knowledge. That was one of the things, I've given this presentation to the RPO, this group and SBAG. That's what we're looking for with this next round. I've got ideas of areas I would like to, I think these boards would be helpful in, but I'm encouraging anybody else that has some insight that know of places, shortcomings, like Judge Perry said, that we have, just looking for extra feedback. I'm not trying to say I'm gonna be the only one that decides where these go. I'd like some extra feedback from other groups to see what they need. One of the ideas I had was even State Highway 114 going in and out, you know, to and from Levelland. I know there's a lot of people that commute both ways, plus South Plains College. You've got quite a bit of activity in that area. Now, we are bound to pretty much stick to our right of way, so that becomes a little bit of an issue, but that's stuff that we can make workarounds at. But the system, we're ever growing. We try to increase this with every project. Like Kyle was talking about with Loop 88, when we do that project, every overpass, every major overpass, there's gonna be a camera there. This first phase, we've got 4 cameras and 2 DMS boards going up. So we're including this type of technology into our normal projects. I'm not saying we're doing it with a Silco program, but we're doing it on major projects. We include information or systems like this to ever grow our system. But I do want to give kudos to Wood and Sean and her group with traffic, City of Lubbock Traffic Engineering. The relationship we have with that partnership is very good. We're hoping to keep that going. We're ever increasing the system and our cooperation.
Jeremy, are you guys putting up color cameras as you put new cameras up? The cameras color, aren't your cameras black and white?
Not anymore.
Okay,
They
okay.
used to be, we are getting color now. At night, you will still see, it'll look black and white. That's just because there's no ambient light.
Right.
To
Okay.
Yes, we have gone to full color cameras.
And have you replaced the ones
Yes.
okay, so
So
you're,
far, we've replaced any of the old black and white.
okay, all right, cool. All right, good. Thanks.
There is a new system coming out with the DMS boards, for full color DMS boards. We have not got those yet. In fact, the state is not allowed to buy those quite yet. We're still working with the vendors, still working to get our procedures in place. At first, I was pretty apprehensive about doing this. Now, I can see a need for it. I'll give an example. The DMS board we have out going north on the interstate out by the airport. We had a wreck out there back earlier this spring, had to post a message board up there. Well, the wreck happened because we had one of our glorious, spring sandstorms. So skies now some amber brown, and what color are our DMS boards? That amber light. So all of a sudden, trying to see that board, and I know it because we've got our CCTV cameras. Anytime we post a message, we look at the board to make sure that it's actually showing up. Our system says it's going. We all know how systems are. There's a lot of components that has to get through to actually get up to that message board. So while I was looking at it, I had a hard time seeing it through. So I know drivers are having a hard time. These full color DMS boards, we can actually change the font color. We can actually put up pictures of like signs, stuff like that. So we're going to be able to enhance the messaging we get across to our drivers, maybe even with less words. If I can put a road closed sign up, that does just as good as having to do a whole lot of words and stuff, even some other messages that we can post up. That's one of the reasons we're doing it down in our southern areas. Some of those areas we don't have as large of an English-speaking population. We've got migrant workers that are in that area, so we're encouraging being able to put up speed limit signs or something like that. People understand symbols and numbers sometimes better than they can a full-blown just word message. So with these new technologies coming in, we'll be able to keep ahead of the curve and get drivers the information we think they need.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Warren.
Jeremy, I want to congratulate you and the city traffic office on the progress y'all have made on this system. For those of us who are of a certain age, it wasn't that long ago we had a single message board on the South Loop, and I think maybe one on Marcia Sharp, and that was our ITS system. Other than picking up the phone and making a phone call saying, hey, there's a big wreck, move traffic. So over the years, we've expanded this significantly. And I can remember when I was in Miss Francis' position before I got this job, that you guys drove me nuts begging for money to get these things put up. But congratulations to you and the city and everybody that's involved in this on expanding that. And Mayor Pope, I just want to point out to you that not only are those cameras in color, they are in living color now. So
What kind of color is that again?
that's living color.
I just want to make sure I got that. Thank you.
You did show your age there. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Derrick? I tell you what, this has been very informative, and we appreciate you coming and sharing with us. This is great information that people need to understand and hear about. Thank you for what you do. We'll now move to agenda item number 8 to discuss the status of the U.S. DOT FHWA Alternative Fuels Corridor program. Mr. Jones.
Thank you. In 2016, the U.S. DOT directed FHWA to launch the Alternative Fuels Corridor program with a call for projects. Funding had already been announced pursuant to a previously posted acknowledgement of funding opportunity. Part of the excitement back then about the program was all the buzz about the rollout of various alternative fuel vehicles from all the different manufacturers. But over the next 5 years, nothing has really jumped out and caught the nation's attention except maybe electric powered vehicles, cars and trucks. And even that program has had its trials and setbacks. Nevertheless, FHWA has had 4 program calls, and nationwide, the program has accumulated a good number of alternative fueling sites, primarily along the interstates across the United States. In Texas, only the larger TMAs have contributed to the program, and that was in response to the first call. Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, Austin, El Paso, they already had anticipated the call and had plans ready and projects on their shelf, ready to go, and jumped in, made applications for the funding, and were funded. Even though they have done that, there are many other fueling sites in those same areas, as well as, like in Lubbock, for example, that have been privately funded. We have several sites here, probably more electric charging stations than any other alternative fuel station, and they are all privately funded. That being said, the takeaway here is that U.S. DOT and the Department of Energy both see alternative modes of transportation and subsequently alternative fuels corridors as a necessary component to the national transportation network. So much so that they have said they will continue to fund the program, even though there was a built-in plateau in 2020 to stop and assess the accomplishments. Remember, the goal here is to improve the mobility of alternative fuel vehicles by 2020. You can look at their website and find many maps and locate all of the sites throughout the nation, both funded through the program and funded privately. And you can tell by those maps, it will give you addresses, it will give you the type of fuel that the site is, and all the other details about it. You have in your backup on page, I think it's 39 through 40 odd, some sheets that will show you the kind of fuels that are included in the program. There's a sample map there of the 3rd round of funding for electric charging sites. And on page 42, you have a project listing for the current 4th round funding. And notice that TxDOT's not on the list, nor were they on the 3rd round of funding. There's just no big interest in the program in Texas right Um, With that being said, we recognize it is of national interest, and perhaps one day we'll join the program. But right now, we don't have anything ready to put out there on the street. So, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to address those. If not, we're ready for the next agenda.
No hearing, no questions, no comments. Thank you for the report. Agenda item number 9 is to discuss the final agenda and schedule events associated with the 2020 Joint Federal TMA Certification Review for the Lubbock Metropolitan Planning Organization.
You have the schedule of events in your backup. And the main events include our elected officials interview, which is planned for this morning. I hope we still have it scheduled. We never got our telephone thing straightened out, and the council staff is working on it this morning. We were going upstairs to do that. Now I think it's going to be back here in your council meeting room. Mr. Griffith, Ms. President Harris, and Judge Parrish are the selected interviewees, and we're going to do that at 10, 10:30, and 11. And then our examination begins at 9 tomorrow at the NPO office, and then the morning of the 23rd is reserved in case we don't finish tomorrow. They have taken a 3-day interview session and crammed everything into one day tomorrow. I don't know how that's going to work, but it'll be fun. It'll be fun participating. Unless you have, the other thing I'll point out to you is we are not going to have a formal public listening session as we have done in the past. We have put an advertisement out to our stakeholders pursuant to what the feds say they wanted to have out there. And so our public listening session now has turned into the public participation process where we're asking for public comments. And that runs through August the 23rd. And so we'll take those comments if we get some and give those to the feds, and they'll put those in the records. That's our interview process. If you have any questions.
Seeing none, we will move to agenda item number 10, which is the reports.
Quickly, the first report on page 49 in your agenda backup is an article about the survey that LSC Transportation Consultants have set up asking for public input on their comprehensive operational analysis that is focusing on city buses, fixed route service, paratransit service, and demand response services. So if you haven't had an opportunity to respond to that survey, they would appreciate your comments. I don't know if Mr. Mandel wants to say anything about that or not.
No, please comment.
Okay. The next report is on page 51. It's a census report talking about the 2019 characteristics of new housing across the nation. I thought you might get a kick out of that, so I put that in there. Likewise, on page 53, I put another census report about the impact or the effect of baby boomers on population growth. And again, that's in there for your reading pleasure and enlightenment. Then on page 57, we included the executive summary of TxDOT's segment 2, reports to claim further interstate feasibility study that has been completed and submitted to the leadership of the segment 2 committee, and subsequently now to the leadership of the main advisory committee. And I had to ask Judge Parrish this morning to give us an update on that report and let us know what the next steps might be. So, Judge?
Well, first of all, I'm wholly inadequate to make this presentation, given the presence of Mayor Dan Pope, who has worked very tirelessly on this project for the last year plus on this. So I think we owe the mayor a great deal of thanks. Thank you, Dan, for all your hard work. We were focusing specifically on segment 2. Now, just a real quick background, the Ports to Plains corridor study was enacted by House Bill 1079, and this was in the last legislative session. Part of that study really kind of broke this whole Ports to Plains corridor study into 3 segments. So you had segment 1, which started in the northern part of the Panhandle where the border is, moved down to actually just southern Hale County or the line between Hale County and Lubbock County. Segment 2 was focused on Lubbock County down to Sonora or Sutton County. And then segment 3 was then from Sonora down to Laredo. So segment 2 basically encompasses just the southern part of currently I-27, going down to La Mesa, splitting at La Mesa, and then the eastern part going through Big Spring, the western part going into Midland. So I'm just, if you had kind of a visual of what we're doing there, and then reconvening there along 158, basically Glasscock, Sterling City area, and then continuing down to San Angelo, El Dorado, Sonora, and down into Laredo. So we were focused on the segment 2 section of the Ports to Plains corridor study. In your backup material, you do have the executive summary of the segment 2 study, and I would like to just kind of point out just a couple of things without going into too many details, unless there are any questions. I'd like to point out 2 things that were at least very important to me, and that was it's on page 11, the summary on page 11 and page 12, which is economic and then safety. And these were really kind of the 2 major things. You know, here in West Texas, we're food, fiber, and fuel. And so we are a great resource of food, fiber, and fuel, not just for the state of Texas, but certainly for the rest of the United States and the world. So getting our food, fiber, and fuel out of West Texas, getting that to the rest of the state and the world, it is really what we're looking at with this Ports to Plains project. And so in the economic surveys that were done by TxDOT, first of all, I want to thank TxDOT for their incredible work. Man, they knocked it out of the park, Steve. But if you look at the growth that's anticipated specifically in segment 2, you're looking at the median household income growing as much as 135% over the next 30 years. We know what we have here in Lubbock as far as healthcare, retail trade, education services. All of these are major employers of segment 2. All of these really demand a good traffic system. Our gross domestic product is expected to grow 76% over the next 30 years as well. So looking at this from an economic point of view, it makes sense that we expand I-27 from the ports to the plains as not just to allow us to move our products in and out of West Texas, but also to provide that relief valve for I-35. Anybody who's traveled on I-35 knows it is a nightmare in and of itself. Having I-27 as a corridor between I-35 and then I-25, I guess, in New Mexico, gives us that opportunity to relieve some of that and provide that economic growth that we are, or meeting that economic growth that we're anticipating. Page 12, there on your background information also, is traffic and safety. For me, this was one of the primary needs that we see in needing an interstate system here in West Texas. Our truck traffic is just phenomenal, moving, again, that food, fiber, and fuel. And truck traffic on some of our two-lane roads and some of our very, I guess, high-traffic intersections out in our rural areas, causing lots of accidents, and just the volume of traffic that we're seeing the increase here in West Texas is, in my opinion, forcing the need for this I-27 corridor to be built. But you look at the traffic volumes are expected to grow 40% in segment 2, truck traffic up 36%. The average crash rate is, once I-27 is fully built, would reduce that at least by 26% in segment 2. Now there's issues about free-flowing, things like that, which are very nice and very convenient, and I think very good when you were talking about freight and moving freight, and some of the businesses that we are going after really want to know that they can move their products in and out of West Texas and move them in and out efficiently. And so lowering traffic time will not only improve our ability to get these freight businesses, or businesses that use a lot of freight, but also will give us the ability to make sure that they are safe and efficient as well. So that's kind of the basic highlights of, for me, why this particular study was very important. Where we're at today, and Mayor, you probably know a little bit more about this than we do. We've completed our segment studies. So each of these 3 segments have been working independently, coming together with a cohesive plan, and now they're putting that cohesive together. And so the entire advisory committee, which is made up of mayors and county judges along the corridor, will be meeting, finalizing the final study, and I think we've got a meeting in August, 1st of August, 7th, is that about right, somewhere in there?
I think the advisory committee meets the middle of the month. I think
Middle? Okay.
the chairs and vice chairs may meet prior to that.
Okay. The ultimate goal is we will turn this over to the governor's office but prior to October. And then the governor will then disseminate this to the legislature, and then hopefully we'll get some, the legislators taking a look at this. They're the ones that asked for this. They're the ones that wanted this. And so we're going to get that to them before the legislative session begins in January of 2021. On the federal front, there's some encouraging news. I know that our local Congressman Jody Arrington, along with some other of the congressional delegation from Texas, has been pushing to get the Ports to Plains corridor designated as an interstate from the federal level, and that will certainly help us when we're going forward. Also, we can do these studies, and we'll do these studies all day long, and we'll spend some time doing them, and we will get some coalitions together to get this done. But at the end of the day, it's nothing that money won't fix, right, Steve Warren? So the question becomes, how are we going to fund this? And this will be a joint effort from the state, getting them excited about making sure that this is on the front burner from the Transportation Commission, but also making sure that this is on the front burner at the federal level as well, because this will be funded through federal dollars. And so we want to make sure that the federal government is also on board on this. And so we're really excited that Congressman Arrington has made this one of his priorities as well, to continue to push for this, along with several members of the Texas delegation as well. So that's kind of where we're at today on this study. We're finalizing putting this together as a cohesive study rather than 3 segments, and that will be coming together and then turning that over then to the governor's office and the legislature to fulfill the mandate that was given to us during the last legislative session.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to just thank Judge Parrish for, he along with Mayor Gunter from San Angelo have led the segment 2 portion of this study. And it's, Mr. Warren's been very involved, and so it's been a very good process. We've got work to do, but I think we feel like we have maybe a little bit of wind at our back.
And again, I can't thank Mayor Pope enough for his leadership, because he is the chairman of the entire segment. So we're talking about segment 2 here, kind of exclusively to that, because that seems to affect us here in this MPO. But really looking at this as a cohesive project has been under the leadership of Mayor Pope, and so I just want to thank him. And all the segments kind of have, the 3 segments kind of have their differing issues. I think segment 2 is probably a little bit more complicated, if my opinion matters at all. But all 3 segments have their particular issues and their particular needs, and bringing that together as a cohesive project has really been under the leadership of Mayor Pope. And so I want to say thank you for that.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, second, thank you.
Yeah.
I know you have been involved in all 3 segments a great deal. The project appreciated.
Yeah, I gotta say, Mayor, you're a tougher man than I am, because I had the pleasure of sitting in on 2 of the segments, since my district covers segment 1 and segment 2. But the mayor sat in on all 3 segments for every meeting, and the added challenge of doing this all through WebEx and Zoom, and which brought its own set of challenges, and kind of helped put out a fire between our friendly neighbors to the south in the oil patch that kind of flared up for a few minutes. And good job, Mayor, and we look forward to the next step. Just go to Washington, bring back a big bag of cash, and we'll get going.
Big bag.
I'd like to say from the entire panel, it is the teamwork that we've got, the folks like Mayor Pope and Judge Parrish, Steve Warren. We have the folks to make this happen, and I appreciate everybody involved. It's the evolution of a vision that nobody's saying no, everybody's saying yes. And I appreciate our legislators taking it up from the state level and the federal level. It's time. The ball is rolling now, but thank y'all very much.
Okay, the last report that I have is on page 76 of your agenda backup. It's our monthly financial report for May, which is the 66th percentile. You can see that we're 226% collected on our revenues, and we are at 52% on our expenses, so we are in good shape at this point. That's all the reports, and I'm done.
Any questions on budget?
Would you accept a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman?
If we need a motion, I guess we've got one. Mr. Wade, we don't, but it appears that everybody's ready to go.
If you finished everything on the agenda, there's no need for a motion. You just adjourn the meeting.
We'll do this very rapidly because it looks like the coffee's getting cold. Thank you all for being here this morning. We are adjourned.